What's up, boys? I wanted to give you a quick progress update video today about kind of how things have been doing for me in the bug bounty space, what I've been sort of working on recently, and the kind of things that have been going on, and the progress I've been making towards my goals. So I don't know if you remember, but around November, December last year, I made a video where I kind of summarized my progress for 2025, and it wasn't really that great. But I set a goal for this year, which was to hit $20,000, and I managed to hit it within the first 3 months or like so. I think it was 3 or 4 months of the year that I managed to hit it. So I kind of needed a new goal, and I set a goal to hit $100,000 basically till the end of the year, so till the end of 2026. And I've been working towards that. As I'm recording this, it's now July of 2026. So it's kind of like, past the halfway point of the year. So June is the halfway point. So, it's the end of July now. So we're into that like third quarter and like, the business kind of talk. We're into the third quarter of the year. So I wanted to give you a recap, basically what I've been doing. And I wanted to also reflect back on some of the things that, the techniques I've been using and potentially some of the mistakes that I've been doing as well. So I wanted to kind of talk about basically that kind of aspect of my life here. And you might have noticed on my channel recently that there hasn't really been like, that many books that I've been posting specifically about like my own books. And the main reason for that is because I've been doing more like specific kind of research on, certain like patterns of vulnerabilities. And I kind of knew that if I spoke about it, a lot of people would end up finding those type of things because it's quite like a specific pattern on like a specific piece of software. So it was kind of like easy to find. And basically the people that I've reported it to haven't fixed a lot of these bugs because, we're kind of like bug bounties a bit like, AI overwhelmed at the moment. A lot of these security researchers are understaffed. So like the security team at these companies are a bit understaffed. So, obviously it's going to take a while for them to fix these things. But I kind of wanted to hold off about talking about some of these things before, the bugs are actually fixed. So you're not just submitting duplicates, but there's actually still like bugs out there that you can find. That's kind of the reason why there's been a little bit less so far. But I am coming up with new videos now. So the next video is going to be talking about basically like another S3 kind of book class, but it's kind of more like a new one that I've been working on recently. And I built a lab around it as well, and it earned me $10,000, so I want to talk about it as well. I think that was pretty cool. And yeah, you'll see a little bit more coming up, but that's just so you know, that's kind of the reason why, is because of the sort of research I've been doing, and because I wasn't able to get some of the bugs disclosed, or there's something fixed, or stuff like this. So that's kind of why I've been talking more about general stuff and not really about the vulnerabilities that I've been finding. Moving on from that, I wanted to show you kind of this chart of my bug bounty rewards. So this is rewards, not actual like volume of vulnerabilities, because to be honest, like whenever I read like these kind of posts online, like I submitted 500 bugs or something like that, honestly, like it doesn't really matter how many bugs you submit, to be honest. Like if it doesn't matter how many vulnerabilities you submit, the thing that actually matters is how much money you make off it. So that's kind of the thing that I care about, is like my work actually translating into income? Because so some people like literally say like they submitted like so many bugs, but then like they're all like mediums or something. They're all like mediums on a program that pays like $200 for a medium. So I do think sometimes it's a bit overblown and unfair, especially when people talk about these AI automation systems. Like they might even be counting like bugs going to non-paying programs. So the thing that I actually care about is the overall revenue that's earned from it. So you can kind of see, I haven't actually included the revenue here for now, because I'll say that for later before, I talk about some other things. But I just wanted to show you kind of the kind of consistency for now of how the bug bounty income often works, especially when you're kind of doing it like me, like, semi full time. So when you look at it here, you kind of have like these like winter periods, and you kind of have like these summers. So I don't know if you ever watched like Game of Thrones. Well, basically in there, it's like, there's like summers, which last like years. Then there's like winters and stuff, which are like, the difficult times or whatever. It's kind of like the same in bug bounty, where, for like a few months of the year, you're going to have like a summer, like you're going to have like, a lot of revenue coming in. You're going to be, doing pretty well. And then you're probably going to have like these winter periods, which are kind of like these down times where you're not really finding much, or like anything you're actually finding is only getting paid out like a couple months later. That's kind of like one of these winter periods where you're not really getting like direct income into your bank. And that's one of the things that makes it pretty challenging to be a bug bounty hunter, is because you have like these winters where you're literally like not making money, which looks pretty bad in terms of like accounting and stuff. If like, say like, in this quarter of the year you made no money, that's not great if you're, like an actual company. Well, that's kind of just how it works in bug bounty, where you're going to be earning this variable kind of income. It's even more variable than most businesses are. So let's just, have a look at my kind of chart for income. You can see the first half of the year, we were kind of in like this, steady linear, kind of not making that much money state. We were kind of in one of these like winters where I wasn't really finding anything. You can see February here was like pretty catastrophic. That doesn't actually mean that I didn't find any vulnerabilities in February. I actually did, but they all just got paid in March, right? So it looks like I just earned no money in February, which, is technically true, but it's not exactly the full story, right? Then you have this pretty like massive jump, right? So unsurprisingly, this is when I earned the 25k vulnerability from the CloudFront misconfiguration. So that definitely did boost it a lot here. And you can see this like massive jump in here. So we're in kind of like a summer period here. You can see this is like the summer, the bug bounty summer here that we've been kind of in right now. Massive kind of boosted income. May is still doing pretty well, but then obviously starts kind of declining. A lot of the bugs that I've submitted, they've been paid out, got paid out in April and May. So now we're kind of dipping down. The momentum's kind of dipping down. And in June, I start kind of moving on to some new things. I need to do kind of setup and stuff. So, the bugs aren't really going to get getting paid out in June, really. And only now it's kind of in July that you can see it's kind of started to recover. The reason for that is because the stuff I found in June got paid out in July. So, it's kind of like a month ahead, right? So you can see, and now, hopefully August, we're going to see, we're going to see this comeback. This bug bounty comeback is going to happen. Hopefully, we're going to be like over here or something. So I don't know, maybe that's how it's going to look like. Maybe not, but we'll see. Hopefully that's going to happen. So you can see, it's pretty variable for what you can see. So if you're kind of expecting to go, full time in bug bounty, then you've kind of got to be used to these kind of down periods, followed by, these very high arcs, followed by kind of more down periods where you're either finding like lower kind of class vulnerabilities, or you're just waiting for payments, which is quite often what happens. And then, maybe you'll see another kind of exponential curve up. You find some kind of very high vulnerability, or you're kind of on a program that's, very good at the moment. It kind of matches your skill set or whatever. So it is a little bit of luck in that kind of sense there. But, the returns are kind of consistent, as you can see. So at the end of the year, we're going to have a more like full chart of what this looks like. And I'll talk about it much more then, about how the ups and downs are going to go, and yeah, it's going to be a lot more evident from there. So that's kind of the chart, and I think it's pretty cool to look at the distribution of payments as well. So moving into some of the things that I actually think I did very right during this period, was first thing was definitely attacking Android. So I kind of started doing this recently. Android definitely has a lot of vulnerabilities that aren't being discovered, and some of them are so simple. And I looked into it, basically kind of getting Android apps, stuff like that. There was a lot of manual work in it back then. You had to use a lot of reverse engineering, which is just so annoying. I don't know who likes reverse engineering, but it's just so boring. But anyway, when you were doing these Android decompilations and stuff, it used to be annoying. And I tried to get into it about a year ago. Honestly, I think it was like same time last year that I tried to get into Android hacking. I basically did some pretty serious research on it. From that, I got like a decent bit into it, and then I just gave up because it was too annoying. Basically, it was so annoying to have a look at the source code. It's all in Java as well. Like, who likes Java? Like, oh my god. Anyway, that was annoying. But then AI came, and this actually became viable. This actually became viable because you just didn't have to do any of that anymore. The AI could reverse engineer for you. Obviously not perfectly, but it could get to a pretty good level of reverse engineering the Android app for you. It could use this thing called ADB, which is the Android Development Bridge, to actually use your phone to download the app from your phone, and then like literally like reverse engineer it on your computer, and then test live exploits by using this bridge on your phone. So it could literally do like the full like end-to-end testing for you now. You didn't really have to do much of it yourself anymore, which was so convenient. And I built it basically, and I built it including this like Android thing, or it would basically download the APKs and it would like reverse engineer them and look for most of these like web view attacks and like deep link vulnerabilities. And it has been paying very good dividends so far. So I've really been, I'm really happy that I did this. So that's pretty good. And I'm going to definitely continue doing that and, seeing how I can scale it and stuff. So that's very nice. And then the second thing that I've really been doing right, I think, is good research. So in terms of, like research, when you talk about like security research, it's kind of actually similar to like the real life like science stuff, where basically you have to just find something that's like interesting, some kind of like interesting behavior, and then just delve into it, like basically just analyze like everything. And the key thing is that you have to not be looking for vulnerabilities when you're doing this. I find that specifically when I'm doing research, not to find a vulnerability, but even when I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do this so I can like share it with you guys on YouTube, then that's literally like when the best vulnerabilities come, basically, because I'm just sitting there like, looking through whatever, like the source code, looking through, JavaScript, looking through, something specific, or I'm modeling, some kind of scenario. And then I find some kind of like pattern. I'm like, that's interesting. I apply it to like a company, I'm like looking at like how a company did this or whatever. And then I see that, oh wait, the pattern here exists. And I try a couple more companies and it's like, oh wait, the pattern is actually quite common. That's like when the best kind of vulnerabilities pop out. That's when you can start getting like not just like one bug bounty payout, but you can start getting like 10 or 20 just from like one pattern that you found. And that's honestly very cool. So I think I've been doing that, really right. And, it's kind of yet to pay like very high dividends, but I think it's like pretty much inevitable that it's going to happen because, it's kind of like it's really generating a lot of good vulnerabilities for me. So this is something that I've, been doing right. And I also recommend you to do a little bit of this as well. And obviously, the last bit is just good old automation with, AI. I built this it's called more like developed automation tool recently, where basically like, the AI can like more autonomously hack without like, my involvement. Before I was using AI, I was using AI basically to like hack with me. So I had it like, on my left side of the monitor while I was hacking on the right, and I'd be like, hey, help me with this, this kind of thing. And that works very well. Actually, that, worked super well at the start of the year. Then I started shifting it more towards autonomous hacking. So trying to look at targets and applying my methodology to it. And this paired particularly well with the research part of it, because once I identified some kind of pattern of vulnerabilities, I could have the AI go look for it basically. So it would be a super specific thing where, my research would find something and then I could get the AI to scale it up for me, which was, working very well. And these two things do very well pair together. But apart from that, it's just like the AI itself can find you good things, especially when you point it in the right direction. And the biggest problem it actually has is not finding vulnerabilities, it's getting past like bot detection and stuff. Really, that's really the biggest problem it has. And once you kind of find a way around that, it becomes very good. So once you start putting in like these tools that it can use, so for example for Android, you give it like an actual phone with an ADB bridge, or you give it like an emulator phone or whatever, then it starts doing very well. And it becomes like unstoppable. Really, like it becomes very good at finding those type of vulnerabilities that you are interested in. So that's something that I think was very beneficial for me and something that I'm going to continue developing. Now, perhaps talking about some things that I could have done a little bit better is the first thing is honestly, like I was just focusing too much on trying to find vulnerabilities. And I know that sounds so weird, but I want to kind of give you this analogy, right? And I talked about this in the motivation video a lot. So you should probably go watch that video, actually. I think that was pretty good. But anyway, it's kind of like, if you imagine you have two scientists, right? They're working on, some kind of research or whatever. Let's say you ask the first scientist what he's working on. And he says he's working on finding a breakthrough. He's just going through all these like different, things like these research papers. He's like, I'm just looking to get a scientific breakthrough somewhere, I'm almost there, That's what he says, right? It's like, you're kind of like, okay, interesting. Look towards the second guy and you ask him, what he's doing. And he tells you, I found this like, particularly like weird behavior in this hormone. Let's say he's like a neuroscientist, I found this weird behavior in this hormone and I'm going to investigate that. I'm going to do like studies on it and stuff. And then, I'm going to, investigate that hormone. I'm going to see how it does. I'm going to see what its effects on, on how we can apply it to like medicine or stuff, or how we can turn this into like an antidepressant. I would honestly bet a lot that the scientist who's just specifically focusing on some kind of like weird behavior that he's like interested in, that he's going to, do these studies on, that he's going to be much more likely to actually get a scientific breakthrough, that he's going to like, get like patents on product and like sell it or whatever, like, Monjaro back in the day, or what was Ozempic, for example. Like he's going to discover like one of those molecules. Then the guy who's just like really like, he's just looking for just that. He's just, he's not actually like interested in anything. He just wants like the end result. Because the guy who's like, doing the studies on like the specific molecule or whatever, he's probably also wants to find some kind of, molecule or something that he could patent and make money off of. Like, he's probably thinking about that as well, but he's not like obsessing over it. So that's, I think, the key difference here. And, we are security researchers, the name has researcher in it, right? So we kind of have to think like that as well. We have to just investigate interesting behaviors and interesting features, but not obsess over the end result, because that's when you kind of start getting into the weird mindset where you just focus on the end result, but you're not actually doing the steps that will take you there. So we kind of have to focus more on that. And, this is a mistake that I make sometimes where, I start doing this, I start taking shortcuts, I start not doing the steps that will get me to the vulnerability. And that's, I think, something that I've need to improve on a little bit more as well. If you're interested more about this, I recommend you go to watch the motivation video, because I gave some good analogies there, and it's pretty good. That's just my opinion on this, and I think honestly it will help you more to focus on the actual, steps that will get you to the vulnerability. So finding interesting behaviors, doing the research, testing out different patterns, than it will just focusing on getting the vulnerability. And honestly, it will be funner anyway. It will be funner anyway to do it that way, so you might as well. Anyways, the second bit is probably a bit autistic, but it's specifically, whenever you have like an AI terminal open and the AI is just generating text or whatever, I find really that it's just so like, it's so like mesmerizing to just stare at it, right? I don't know, it gives you like so much dopamine, right? Just staring at this AI output that's, on your screen. But I know that the AI is supposed to make me more efficient. I'm not supposed to stare at the AI when it's kind of doing this output and stuff. I'm supposed to be doing other things in the meantime. That's actually what makes the AI strong, is that you can multitask. While the AI does something, you can go do something else. Obviously not for everything. Maybe if you're like, working on like a specific feature and you need the AI to analyze something, maybe you'll like wait for its output or whatever, but you could literally be like reading the source code in that time while the AI is generating. The reason, I don't do that is because the AI gives you so much dopamine from just looking at it. I think this is one of the bigger drawbacks of AI. It's just how addictive it is. Honestly, like, I don't think I've ever heard of a lot of people talk about this, but AI is quite addictive. Honestly, like, whenever you have the AI outputting, it's because it's just like, especially in security, it's just so like unexpected, like what it's going to do, right? It's like, imagine you have a slot machine, right, in like a casino, and every time you have the slot machine, let's say you have to pay €1, $1 to pay the slot machine, and the slot machine will give you 80 cents every time. Let's say you literally you put in €1 and you get 80 cents every time. And let's say, you're playing it, you put in €1, you get 80 cents back. You put in €1, 80 cents back, and then you fucking walk out of the casino because like, what is this? Like, the slot machine just robbing me, right? No, instead, what they're going to do is they're going to put down a slot machine that's going to give you €1. You can pay €1 to play it. Sometimes you get 80 cents back. Sometimes you get 60 cents back. But sometimes you can get like 150 back. Sometimes you can get €5 back. That's the slot machine that everyone's going to keep playing because it's unexpected. You don't know what's going to come out of it. It's kind of the same with the AI, where it's like when the AI is doing something, it's like, you don't know if it's actually going to find anything. The AI is just sitting there. It's like, I'm looking at this, specific feature now. The next thing that could happen is the AI could be like critical vulnerability, or it could be like, oh, there's nothing here. It's kind of like that unexpected thing where you don't know what's actually going to happen, and that's what actually makes it, so like mesmerizing just to look at it. And I've kind of felt like this is something that's been holding me back. So I'm gonna try and kind of multitask while the AI is doing that stuff. And maybe you can relate to this, maybe not, maybe I'm just weird or whatever, but I don't know. Tell me in the comments if I'm weird. Anyway, next thing is also relating to AI, and it's specifically about updating your skills and your prompts, which is something that I really need to start doing more, because on my computer, like I have like, the AI automation stuff on my like VPS, and then on my computer I have like a normal Claude Code or whatever. And I really like, I'm always so lazy about, updating the prompts and stuff for this. And sometimes, I find that the AI just has like the same problems over and over again. When you identify that, you have to kind of proactively modify the prompt so the AI doesn't fall into that problem, because it's just going to cause so much like problems down the line. The AI's context is just going to get messed up by like some random mistake that it makes, and then it tries to fix that mistake, and then it like loses the plot or whatever. And that can honestly impact the AI a lot in terms of its context. AIs are a bit weird. Like we don't really know like exactly how they work, but any kind of text that's in the AI context is going to affect its next output, because that's literally like how the AI is built. It's built off of previous text that's taken in, predicting future output. So you want the context to be, very good. You want the context to be like, the AI doesn't make like, the AI just, everything's flowing correctly for the AI, right? Because that's when you're going to get the best, kind of behavior from the AI. Because there's not like a random like mistake modeling the context, it's there like, thinking about this vulnerability. And then for some reason, right here, it has to like fix like a certain tool or whatever. And then it can start hacking again. You want to minimize that as much as possible, because when that happens, the AI's context is going to get like polluted basically. So we want to prevent that from happening. It's kind of like how agents work, right? So agents in AI, they're specifically designed kind of so that, they have fresh context so they can focus specifically on other things. And that's kind of what I wish I would do a bit more. It's just updating the Claude Code a little bit more. I know some people have like self-updating skills as well, where for example, they'll have like a Claude prompt, and inside the prompt, they'll be like, oh, if you have like this recurring pattern of vulnerabilities, then you can like update it yourself. Now, personally, I've put that in before and it's done absolutely nothing. Like the AI just straight up ignored me for every single bit of it. So I haven't found that to be particularly effective in actually doing this. I found that updating it myself has been the most effective so far. That's kind of the thing. Although it is a bit of a stress, you kind of, push it off or procrastinate or whatever. But that's something that I need to do a little bit more. Anyway, oh yeah, onto the actual numbers. Yeah, I suppose I've yapped for enough time at this point. So you can see here, the chart is here. So around April, you can see in the summer periods of Bug Bounty, we have made around $30,000. And, in the period of May as well, around, you can see, I think this is around $18,000 as well. So, keep in mind that a lot of these vulnerabilities were actually reported in May, and most of the vulnerabilities for April were reported in March, and the vulnerabilities for May were reported in April. So it's kind of like, a little bit delayed. But, roughly you can see that, during the summer periods, you can make about $50,000 is about what I made. And then, in the off periods, I was still making, about like, 5K a month, which, overall is still pretty good. 5K a month is very nice. But it's really the big, like, summer months that are going to make you the vast majority of your income. Now, this figure for July is a little bit outdated because I've been hacking a little bit on Bugcrowd and I've been making a decent bit of money. So it's actually kind of looks more like this, we'll say, where, it's about $10,000 that I've made in this month. So it hasn't really been like the huge spike or whatever. Maybe that'll come next, I don't know. Well, it's coming up, it's improving, mainly because, I did a bit of work on July, did a bit of research, and it's kind of been paying dividends now. And I'm doing research now that's probably going to be paying dividends in August. So that's kind of how it's been working out for me. And yeah, overall, income is about 66,000 plus like 3,500 from Bugcrowd. So we're up to about 70,000. So we have about $30,000 left to earn this year, and pretty excited to be doing that. So that's just the next steps really quickly is, I'm working on achieving the 100K goal. Next 1 to 2 months, I think it should be doable. Hopefully we can, come back with a little bit of like an upward spike and achieve the goal by like the end of August. I would be very happy. And then I want to, start publishing some of the research I was talking about, basically the stuff that haven't been getting disclosed. I want to kind of put a little bit of pressure on these companies to start fixing it so that I can actually start talking about it. And then finally, I'm going to be creating new labs based on the research that I kind of published. So specifically for the community that I made, there's these like labs or whatever. I'm going to build new kind of course labs based on the research I've been finding. And this is, unique, basically. This is unique to stuff that I've been working on. So you won't really find it anywhere else. So these are going to be labs that are going to be tailored to teaching you about finding these kind of research. It's going to include both video labs and like the, you know, online labs or whatever. So it's going to be super cool, and, you know, I can't wait to be doing that stuff. And yeah, so what are your goals for this year? How are you making progress? You know, tell me in the comments below. And if you haven't already, then you can also check out my community that I've been talking about. So it's in the link in the description. You can join, you know, get access to the labs that we have right now, and then you can get access to, you know, the labs that will come out when my research is over and stuff like that. So it's super cool. You can go down in the description and, you know, check it out if you want to. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.